Actually, I had a giant, weird change in my life right before that. Like the week, not even like a day before I left to the fight camp. So like he had been recording me for a few weeks.
Yeah.
And then I feel like my core being changed because of a big old spiritual thing that happened to me. So like he did, and like he didn't even, I think you can, if you really pay attention, you can tell a little bit at the end, like the week, like the fight week, I'm almost like I'm a little bit of a different person. Cause yeah, I swear God came down and gave me a hug himself. It was a very, 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 very crazy experience. Growing up, my grandma was super Christian. She was a little Italian lady, so she was Catholic, but then she converted to Christianity when she moved from Italy over here. My mom grew up in the church. She tried to, then my mom had us and tried to have us in the church as much as possible. My grandma grew up with my grandma just being like, make sure you pray, you know, Jesus is coming, he's gonna come. I wanna see you over there. And so she would always say that, but you know, like, and you hear it and you go to church when you're growing up, but, and after fights, I'd be like, you know, shout out to God, you know, but it never was like, it was like something I said because I felt like I was supposed to say it. Just something in me that was ingrained in me. And it wasn't something where I was like, yeah, you know, like I would mess up, I would sin here and there and do things I'm not supposed to be doing. And, but then the week before I took, not the week before, a couple days before I took off to that fight for fight week, a friend of mine came and he was a pastor and stuff, and he's like, hey, you mind if I just pray over you? He didn't even know if I was religious at all. He was just like, can I pray over you for a little bit? And he was also a chiropractor, and he's like, I'll adjust you too. Just come be on my table if you don't mind. And I was like, yeah, sure, you know, why not? I'll take some prayers. I know, like, I knew prayers weren't a bad thing. If anyone wanted to pray for me before even, I'd be like, yeah, I'll take some extra prayers. Let's go for it. Then I go down there and we sit outside. I'm on his porch and he's talking to me. It's funny, he was eating an apple. And he just was like, so you believe in God? And I was like, yeah, you know, like, yeah. I mean, I grew up with my grandma always talking about him, you know, like, yeah, God, go to church or something. He's like, when's the last time you went to church? I was like, I haven't been to church in a while, but, you know, I don't doubt that he's like real, you know, it's just, but it's like, I'm like, he ain't no focus in my life, really. It's not like I'm like, yeah, God, you know? And then he told me something that really like sat with me, and it was kind of strong, because he said, God keeps on telling me that you're a light in people's lives. And when he told me that, it was weird, and it kind of gave me goosebumps because it was fight week, right? And I've been getting interviewed all week and stuff like that. And multiple people in completely different, separate like walks of my life, circles of my life, kept on saying the same thing. You keep on spreading a light in people's life, right? And then like people randomly are texting me and telling me the same thing, like that key phrase. So I was like, that's a little eerie, you know, like, so, and then he told me, he's like, yeah, so God's telling me that you're you know, you're supposed to be spreading his light and stuff. And I'm like, oh, yeah, it's interesting you said that. And I explained to him how everyone's been talking about it. And then he was like, so like, have you like, do you really know about the Bible? Do you this? And I was like, I mean, I don't read it or nothing. And then he was like, I'm gonna pray over you. And then I just want you to just not fight anything, just like let stuff happen. And then he asked me if I was familiar with like speaking in tongues and stuff. And I was like, oh, my grandma used to do it in church. But like, I mean, it's weird when you see it happening, because if you've never done it yourself, you're like, kind of like, what the heck's going on over there, you know? Like, I feel bad for saying it, but I almost like question like what my grandma was doing. Like, man, you know, I don't know what you're doing over, like, are you really speaking in tongues, you know? But anyway, so he's praying on me on his table, and put some like oil on my forehead, and he's just praying on me, and I have my eyes closed, and then he puts this blanket on my body, and well, my eyes are closed, right? But then I feel my whole body start like vibrating, and like I'm just shaking. And I'm like, don't know what's happening. So I kind of like open up my eye a little bit, like just to see, like, I thought he put like a massage blanket on me because it was just like my whole core was shaking. But it's just this little thin fabric blanket with like some Hebrew or Aramaic on it or something like that. And but my whole body is just like shaking, and I feel like a giant warmth and like electrifying force just going throughout my body. And then my chin and my lips kind of start quivering. And then he was just like, don't fight it, just let it happen. And then for the next like hour, I just spoke in tongues. And the entire time I was like mind blown because I had no idea what I was saying, but everything that came out of me was with like so much like passion. And I knew what I was saying was exactly what I needed to say. But I was like, what the heck am I saying? It was a very, very surreal feeling. And then I started coming to tears because I was just like, I get it. Like, I understand why my grandma would wake up at 5 a.m. just to pray every day, you know, like and she had passed away at this time. So like everything that like her belief was so strong, I was like, oh, you felt like the presence of God like this. So I completely understand why you've done everything, like the way the reason why you were the way that you were. And yeah, at that I was just like, well, God's real, you know, like I don't want to do anything that is not against his wishes, you know. And it made all of a sudden he went from being kind of like an afterthought in my life to being, you know, center stage, right in the middle, main focus. It was crazy.
Yeah. What how's that year look like?
Man, I mean, a whole lot of training still. I never, even if I have a fight or not, I'm always training, always training. The only way I'm not training is if I get like an injury. My coach made me take a little bit of time off from striking just because the fight ended the way that it ended. So he's like, let's rest your brain a little bit. My coach isn't worried about, like he's worried about my fight career, but more than anything he's worried about me as a person and my brain's health, you know? So he's just like, let's take a little time off and then let's just do grappling so you don't gotta get no bops in the head or some bag work and drilling, but no sparring for a second. Getting closer and closer to God. Read the Bible like twice now since then, I think. And then still listen to it every day. Got married, proposed, and then got married like 4 weeks later because it was whatchamacallit, leap year, February 29th. I was like, I gotta take advantage of a 4-year anniversary. So I proposed to her right before, and after I was like, hey, just go buy a dress, let's just get married. And she was just like right now? I was like, well, February 29th. She was like, she knows I'm dumb. Like, not like dumb, but like I'll do something, yeah, that's just like funny, because it'd be like, when's your anniversary? Oh, February 29th, you know. She knows I would think that that's hilarious. So she was kind of like, you're not serious, but then she was like, no, so she went and bought the dresses anyways, and then after I was like, no, like we scheduled the appointment and thing. So when I got married, yeah, I'm like married now, closer to God. Everything feels solid. The closer I got to God, the closer I realized a lot about like a lot of stuff. And it's like I got even more closer to her. And she was completely all in, you know, about getting closer to God too. Like she went and got baptized too. I got baptized and she got baptized. And you know, I'm just like reading the book, and I'm just like, man, you know, I gotta take care of this girl, and I want to take care of this girl, you know, like it's my duty as a husband, right? And I think that was like before I was like, oh, you know, we'll get married like eventually and stuff like that. We'll get married eventually. And then I was kind of putting it off, but I was like, nah, you know, it's important to be married. And my life on a day-to-day basis didn't really change. It's more like my priorities did, or like the reasoning behind it. Like I'm training all day and I'm training all day, but I was training all day because like I wanted to be like a champion and stuff. Now I'm training all day because I want to provide a good life for my wife, you know? So same end result, but the reasoning behind it's not just like, even though she was my like girl and I loved her a lot, I was thinking about like my legacy more than anything. But now I'm like, you know, I mean, legacies come and go. I'm just trying to make sure my wife's taken care of, and then my future babies, you know? everything feels great right now. Now that I'm at where I'm at with God and my wife. You know, I've always been like different, going against kind of the grain about stuff. I didn't know what I was gonna do, but I figured I wasn't gonna do something that everyone else was doing. I always wanted to be a fighter. My mom in particular wasn't a big fan of it. So I didn't get to start doing it till I was in college when I could pay for it myself and sign a waiver and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've always felt like I was like a little different, that I was gonna do something different than everybody else, that I'm the second born, but my older brother's 4 years older than me. And then my little brother and my little sister are just a year and then a year younger than me. So like we would go through school together. So I was kind of like a pseudo the oldest brother, because my older brother was gone when we were going through school and stuff. I had to get homeschooled from 6th grade through I went back to school my junior year of high school, and I was real sick, and I had some kind of undiagnosed autoimmune thing. Like to this day, doctor like had no idea what was going on. I was like, I had like intestinal bleeding, and I was throwing up all the time, and I was just too sick to go to school. And I actually got like really like unhealthy, like I was really chunky and stuff too. Just like, I don't know, all the medications and stuff they had me on. And I made a decision that I was gonna make my body like healthy and like as healthy as possible. And then martial arts and stuff like that really got in my mind, because I was like, I'm just gonna make myself a weapon. The complete opposite of what I was before, because if you really take for granted like the ability to move around, like, you know, like I was in bed doing nothing for a long time, and then just waking up in the middle of the night, and my mom would have to like rush me to the like emergency room for like so many times, like growing up in like my early or young adultness, you know. So it was a very weird time. And then when I got kind of like okayed to go, it really started off with, man, I'm just gonna try to be as healthy as possible. And I mean, I changed my body a lot. Like I was 256 pounds at my heaviest. And then I remember when I got like okayed to, like, the doctors were like, you know, just be careful, you know, watch yourself. I dropped to like 145 in like the next couple months. I was just like on it, eating healthy, running. I remember it was a shower head. I was taking a shower, and the shower head was like one of those ones that could come off. So it was like, was it convexed or concaved or whatever? So like it was all warped like a funhouse mirror. So I looked even bigger than I did, you know, with the angle and everything. But I was like, nah, this has got to change. You know, like doctors said I can start moving around. And I just came up with the idea of 3 miles. So I just like ran 3 miles that day. And I ran 3 miles the next day, and 3 miles the next day, and 3 miles the next day. Started eating healthier, and then the weight like fell off. And that was like kind of the beginning of like my resilience in my mind, and like just to go and be healthy. And that really kind of forced me that route to, or not forced me, but it was the beginning of the route to being a fighter. At first, it just started with me like just punching bags in the backyard and stuff. I wasn't even like training. So basically, when I went back to high school, right, I was hitting the bags in the backyard, and I was watching YouTube videos, and I was like, oh man, this fighting thing's pretty cool. I think I'm good at it. But like, you know, they said the bag doesn't hit back. So I was like, I don't know if I'm really good at this, you know? So I kind of like wanted to fight somebody, but I also didn't want to be stupid and just fight the people, you know? Especially my mom worked for the same school district that I attended, so I didn't want to make her look bad. So I was just like, how do I like fight people? And then I was friends with some kid who would get in a lot of fights, right? So he would like knock out a lot of people. And one time we were just, you know, like you are, and especially we were both on the football team, so we're just like talking and stuff like that. And he was like, man, I'll beat you up. And I was like, no, you won't. And he was like, yeah, I will. And he's like, how many fights you been in? I'm like, 0, but I could take you. And he was like, yeah, right. And after I was like, oh, let's just throw some gloves on it and see. And I was like, it's a win-win situation for me, you know, like I get the experience of a fight, and I get to see what I've been doing in the backyard actually works or not, you know? after school, we just like, I brought some gloves. We stopped at the Big Five and bought some like little like, they got like those 2-ounce UFC gloves. They're like not even like the little ones that, it's basically a weightlifting glove. They got no pad on it whatsoever. But like some mouthpieces, and we started sparring, and I like kicked his butt, and I was just like, man, you know, I might actually be good at this. And then I never really made like pushed fighting an issue, like trying to get in fights at school. But if someone ever wanted to fight me or something happened, I'd be like, all right, yeah, you know, like let's go find out. Meet me here. So never got a fight at school because I wasn't trying to get my mom in trouble. So I was like, meet me here, like in the cut over here at 3 o'clock after school, and I'll be, let's do it. And so like, I like kicked a lot of guys' butts. I would win the fights, and I'm like, man, you know what? This is pretty cool. I like this a lot. And then at one of the fights that I fought, one of my friends, who wasn't my friend at the time, but he saw me fighting. I had him in school, in class my senior year, and we became like close friends. And then like in college, he started training MMA, and he hit me up. He was like, hey, do you still like to fight? And I was like, I mean, yeah, I don't really do it that much. I actually had, I had messed up my shoulder, so I had just finished rehabbing it, and I was scared to even go to the MMA gym. And he was like, man, I'm gonna pick you up, just come. I'm like, nah, what if my shoulder gets messed up? Because he wrestled in high school and I didn't. And after I was like, I'm not trying to get slammed on I was like, maybe I'll just do boxing, bro. And he's like, nah, stop being a sissy, come to the MMA gym. So then I started training at the MMA gym with him, and then I did a jiu-jitsu tournament like a month later, and I got gold. And then I did a fight like a month after that, and I won that fight. And I was just like, I like this a lot. And from then on, I was just asking my coach, like, when's the next thing? When's the next thing? When's the next thing? And like, I don't know. I just felt like it was something that I don't know if it's something I was supposed to be doing, but I had a lot of fun doing it, and I was good at it. So I was just like, oh, let's just see where this goes. And I just stay in my lane, man. The only, I mean, like, I don't know if you follow me on Instagram, I post more about Jesus than I do fighting material, and that's all I'm really worried about, man. Before I used to go out, and when I would, you know, win a fight or something like that, go get drunk, you know, celebrate, do all this stuff. And now it doesn't even like, you know, doesn't even pop in my head to do so, you know. Don't want to end up like Noah after the flood, you know, drunk and making some bad decisions. So I just don't worry about nothing nobody else is doing. I just try to put God first and just live the way that, you know, like what would Jesus do? Just try to be about that, spread his word, especially having the experience that I did with God. I think that is super important for me to just keep on pushing, because the way I think, like, I'm super lucky that I went through what I went through, because there is nothing that at any point that can happen in my life where I'm gonna be like, God's not real, you know, like that experience is done for me, it's a wrap, you know? So there's a lot of people that haven't had that experience. So like I was blessed with that. So now it's my job to just, like, more than anything, just spread the gospel, just talk about God, because yeah, like, guys didn't go through that. Like it'd be so hard, like what I did before, even though I witnessed it when my grandma would speak in tongues and stuff like that, or witnessing this or that happening and be like, oh, like, you know, that's God. But like to feel it myself, I'm like, yo, that was real. So I know it's hard to not get that way when it hasn't happened to you. So I'm like, man, I'm just gotta do what I can to just keep on pushing it out there and letting people know. And I ain't worried about nothing else. I'm not worried about the admiration of anybody who's not God. Like, if you don't like me, I mean, I still love you, doesn't matter, you know? And that's all I really care about. I feel great. So most of my professional fights were at 55. I went up to 170 in the UFC, which is like almost like a backwards decision because they're the top of the top. And but I really like going to Korean barbecue and buffets like when I was fighting at 170, I was going to buffets. I was like every weekend sometimes twice a week, I'd be going to buffets with my friends, even like the week before. And I was doing everything I can to just make sure I wasn't tiny, for the division, and I loved it because I love to eat food. Food's amazing, but also the guys that are fighting at that weight are huge. Like, I showed up fight week last time at like 72, 73, and that's with me, you know, going to buffets on the weekend and everything like that, grubbing all week. And my opponent, I think he weighed in overweight, like at 74, something like that. So he showed up fight day or at weigh-ins heavier than I was all week, you know, when I was going to buffets and stuff. It's like the giant. I probably went up to like 175 the next day from 170, and this is like no sauna cut, nothing. I just took a crap before I weighed in, you know, and he probably blew up to like 190 something, you know. So like, if I'm fighting guys that with 20 pounds on me, and that's like the thing at welterweight, you know, those guys walk around even at 205 sometimes, and I'm over here struggling to be like on the high side of 170. So I should have been a lightweight the whole time. So most of my fights were at lightweight. So it feels good to go down to lightweight again. Like having to be like, you know what, let me not go to a buffet this week is kind of like annoying because I got real used to it. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to be fighting guys. I'm fighting guys that are my size again, you know, so that's super fun and super like exciting for me to do, because I think the average welterweight's like 6'2", I'm 5'10". Average reach is like 76 inches. I got, or 76, 77. I got a 73-inch reach. So it's not like super short, but with the height, you know, people are able to get in and out of the way. So I got to like get all the way on the inside and then try to like dive on the outside if I want to be in and out. And just, there's a lot of danger like it's a dangerous zone that I got to cross in and out of. I'm excited to fight guys my size for once. That's going to be pretty cool, man.
Last thing, do you have any shout outs that you just want to get on camera?
Man, shout out to Cryo Spot out here keeping my body good all the time. Been coming here since like I was a professional. First started going pro in 2016. Shout out to my boy Chewy. We were over there earlier today running some mitts at Raw Talent Boxing. Tracy has sub fighter jiu-jitsu all day. Smoke and Fire. If you guys never been to Smoke and Fire, you need to go get some Smoke and Fire. There's one in Paramount. There's one in La Habra. There's one and Pomona, they all over the place. Shout out to my boys at Jaywalkers. Shout out to my boy, I really should have a list of Trini SP hats, man. Shout out to God first and foremost. Yeah. Whatever happens to me, I pray every day that I walk the path that he has for me and that his will be done for better or for worse. Yeah. You know that I be listening to that song Father Knows Best by Kirk Franklin like every day. And I just know that whether I think it's good for me or bad for me or whatever, I know that what God has planned for me is what's best for me, and I fully believe in that. So I'll be watching through life like not worried about anything, you know. I'm just like, well, this is gonna happen, whether like even at the time I'm like, oh man, that kind of sucks. I know in the long run it doesn't. It's gonna always put me in the spot that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be at. So I'll be big chilling.
Yeah, I feel that, man.